Welcome back to this month's episode of Runners of Louisville. Today we have my friend Mike Purvis. Welcome to Runners of Louisville.
Woo!
And this is how it's going to be for the entire interview, so sit back and enjoy the ride. All right, so obviously if you're on Runners of Louisville, you have done your fair share of running over the past just few years, not that long.
Yeah.
But, so tell us about your childhood, how you got into sport, and then eventually how you got into running.
Okay. I was active as long as I can remember. Water skiing at 18 months, roller skating shortly after that, speed skating at 3 years old, and that started the snowball. And then basically speed skating, dancing through my childhood, along with playing everything else. And then, I mean, I was into some weird stuff. So as far as like sports that, you know, people are like, it just doesn't make any, I mean, I was, you know, racing dirt bikes and racing BMX and skateboards everywhere, and, you know, basically anything I could do to get hurt, I was in. So, but actually had some buddies that ran in high school. They ran freshman year. So I didn't really do anything freshman year. I was still skating and dancing and doing all this stuff, and then decided to come out and run with those guys sophomore year. They quit, played soccer, so I was the only one still running. And then here we are, just a few years later.
Yeah, just one or two, right?
Still doing the same thing.
So,
Yep.
High school you ran at Butler.
Yep.
Right? So, and then you went on to run at the University of Louisville. So, what was running in high school like, and then what was running in college like then?
Drastically different. I mean, at the time we had a very low mileage program in high school. And then when I went to college, it was not a low mileage program. It wasn't a crazy high mileage program, but it was way more than 35, 40 miles a week that I was used to doing. So that was drastic change for me, which is the same for most people coming out of a low mileage program. But yeah, I mean, college was, you know, an interesting, I'd say for anyone there, it was an interesting time because, like, we didn't really have a track. Never had a home meet while I was in college, so it was a weird time to run at Louisville because they got the track right after, like maybe a year or two after I graduated. So, yeah, I was very jealous of those that got to run on the new track, and we got cinder. So there's that.
And all the kids are saying, "What's that?"
Yep, that's for sure. Yep.
So, just thinking about high school and college, and then did you continue running after you finished up running collegiately, or is it something that you were like, I need to take a step back, or?
I definitely took a break. I was, you know, I've always said I played so many sports and did all this stuff throughout my childhood that when I had to really focus on one sport, that really worked my sport ADHD pretty hardcore. And like when I started running, my high school coach was like, you know, told my parents I need to sell all my dirt bikes because if I was going to get through college on this, I shouldn't be racing those things. So got rid of that stuff. And actually the day after outdoor conference, my senior year, I bought another dirt bike. Had a cast on both arms 2 weeks later. So there's life. But yeah, so I basically, you know, for me, I was never a one sport athlete, I guess, in a sense. I always loved to do so many different things, and then when I had to specialize, that was hard. That was really, really hard for me, and I went through a phase to where I didn't want to I didn't run for 11 years after college, so I guess that kind of says something right there. But yeah, it's interesting how certain people can dump right back into running collegiately and then running for themselves and get a completely different, mental space out of it. And I was not there. So, that let me, dabble into some other things and really get back into motorcycles and do all this other stuff. So,
Sounds like a fun...
interesting time in my life, that's for sure.
Right. So then you got back into running 11 years later after you were doing all types of bike racing. What kind of bike racing were you doing then?
So, while racing motorcycles, I eventually got to the point to where I couldn't afford the hospital bills all the time. So I had a buddy that was racing mountain bikes. So I started riding with him, and that got me into cycling. And before I knew it, I had sold all my motorcycles, and I was literally just riding bikes. Mountain bikes got me into road bikes. Road bikes got me into cyclocross, and then it was just a culmination of everything else, So, but yeah, that was 10 years straight of racing bikes. I mean, we would be anywhere along the East Coast on any particular weekend, racing whatever type of bike. Whoever was paying the most, that's where we're going.
Right. Did you have a favorite of, like, mountain or road or...
Mountain bikes have always been, I grew up riding BMX, so I basically ride a mountain bike like a big BMX bike, and it always, that's still my favorite to this day. I kind of did the same with mountain bikes that I did running, though. I kind of went away. I burnt myself out because it was couldn't really have fun. Everything was training, everything was this, so went away from mountain bikes for a while, and then got back in maybe 4 years ago, and now I couldn't imagine. It's funny, running and mountain bikes are my two happy places, so kind of weird how life comes full circle.
Right.
Yeah.
Take a break from both, and then they come back, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, within that time too, you got into triathlon, and you did that for. When did you get into triathlon? Did you come back to running? Obviously, because
I started training for triathlon in 2009. That's what got me back into running.
Okay.
Yeah. So, had this weird thought that I wanted to do Ironman for no apparent reason. I was great at swimming back to the boat, but never thought that I would actually be. I trained in the pool a lot, but it was always just like yourself. We would run in the pool. Mm-hmm. Hurt all the time run in the pool. So swimming laps, I was like, I don't know, but I was at U of L all the time, working with the team, and I'm like, I can do that. Well, I'm still trying to figure that out, and that's been 11 years. Yeah. So, but yeah, that got me back into running, and did tries for, that was the 10-year. There was another 10-year gap. And then, it's funny. Now I'm kind of phasing triathlon out and figuring out where my life's going to go. I have no idea.
But something exciting things.
Something's going to happen. I don't know what, but something's going to happen.
Right. So looking back at more of your running days, what is one of the races that kind of sticks out in your mind? Maybe memorable because of the people you were doing it with, or maybe the atmosphere in the event, or how you felt during the race. But what's one that kind of sticks out in your mind?
I never had a lot of success in marathons. I couldn't figure them out. I literally could get to 22 miles. I'm cruising, and then, I don't know, somebody dropped an anvil on me or something. I have no idea what happened, but New York was cool. That was my last marathon, 2011. That to me was a cool, even though I've always said I would love to go run a race and not race a race, because so many people are like, oh man, how was it? Did you see this? Did you see that? I'm like, I saw the dude's back in front of me that I was trying to catch, Right. So it's racing, you don't really get to kind of see everything. But yeah, I thought New York was a cool that was my only like big, marathon. So I thought that was a pretty cool event.
I had a friend who just did the anniversary one, and he
Yeah.
said it was a really cool experience, and he was able to just kind of go and run because he'd been dealing with injuries, and he said the atmosphere and the race that they put on is just really cool. But you're right, if you're going to race, you don't notice all those things. So he thought it was really cool. Like, yes, he was hurt or coming back from injury, but he was able to then take that experience and make it something positive and
Right.
go and actually enjoy it in a different light. Obviously, change the mindset going into it because he knew what it was going to be, but just have
Right.
fun with it.
I'm always jealous of people that can do that because there's something about even literally a week ago or Thursday running the Thanksgiving Day run. I'm just gonna cruise through it. You give me a number and it's just my mindset. I just can't. I don't know. I'm not a competitive person, but I am. That makes no sense whatsoever.
No, but
So there's that.
yeah, sums you up perfectly.
There's that.
So, thinking about places you like to run in Louisville, you've ran all over Louisville,
Yeah.
probably too many times to count.
Yep.
What's one of those places that you're like, you don't get tired of going to or running?
I've always enjoyed Iroquois, just because that's where I grew up. I mean, if we were running not from school, the majority of the time we'd run at Iroquois, and that was always, I've never liked the easy road, so I've always enjoyed that because it's not an easy park. But now I live, if I'm running, I usually go. Now I'm closer to Cherokee, so it's like I end up running closer to Cherokee. So that's usually, I don't know. Running to me is not a social thing. I know a lot of people use it as a social thing. I run 99.9% of the time by myself. It's a therapy thing. That's my running shoes are my therapist. I'm like, that is what I've said that for years. When I didn't have running, I'm like, I don't know who I talk to. Because that is me talking to myself when I'm running. That is what gets me through life. So,
Right.
So the same as, I could really, as much as I travel, I run some really bad runs. But half the time I don't even know where I'm at because I'm literally just talking to myself. So I could
Right.
I run the same courses all the time. And I'm like, oh, this is great.
Probably a good thing, so that way you make it back to home.
See, there you go.
Otherwise, you'll be thinking of something, a new idea, something pops in your brain, and
And then I'm 20 miles from the house.
Yes.
So yeah, that wouldn't be good.
muscle memory gets you home.
Yep.
All right, so you get to work with a lot of the running community, whether or not, obviously, you don't run with as many people, but you work on and with so many people within our community and have made a huge impact within our running community. So what do you think about the Louisville running community that it is so special?
Well, if people don't know, so work on.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So
Introduce that part.
yeah,
First.
so I do massage full time. I own Workitout Sports Massage, so that does let me. Running has always been the biggest part of my business from day one, and it's been 14 years now, so almost 15. So that's hands down the largest portion of my business. And, I've been lucky enough I've always said, it's like we all have different goals. Everyone I don't care if it's someone trying to get around the block after knee surgery or whatever, or if you're trying to win an event. We all have goals, and I've always said I've just been lucky enough to help people achieve their goals, and that's a pretty cool position to be in.
Yeah. Think about just even the conversations we've had. I've come to you for a massage many times, and just the time that we get to connect, and that aspect and getting to talk about it, like you are able to bring in a lot of experience because of your running and athletic background to me. And I think about all the people that you have worked on over the years, and even just conversations, and I'm talking with people and they're like, oh yeah, Mike worked on me the other day. And just how important it is in the running community to have someone that you trust to be able to call and say, okay, I'm in need of something. Let's see if this person can help me, and then being able to like recommend. Like I will call and say, someone's telling me something, I'm like, well, you need to go here. You need to see him. And it's not about, you care about the person and you want them to achieve their goals.
Right.
And that's what comes first to you. And you're going to help them achieve that. And that's what you want to surround yourself with as you're trying to achieve goals. You don't want people that's going to hold you back, but you want people that's going to push you forward, but in a way that is encouraging you and making sure that you are setting yourself up for success instead of hurting yourself before you get there.
It's just, I've always said it's just part of your team, right? I mean, it's like, the same goes for, you guys with footwear, or if someone happens to use a particular PT or a chiro or, anything like that. I'm like, everything goes hand in hand. It's just part of the team, keeping people going. Because, I mean, I've always said the one thing about runners is that we never do what we're supposed to do. That is, I've always said, if the majority of the population did what they know they're supposed to do, me included, I wouldn't have a job. Because everyone would be, there would be no injuries. There would be no, and realistically, I don't get a lot of maintenance stuff. Most of mine is, I'm broken, I can't run, or I can't ride, or I can't swim, or whatever it happens to be, fix me. So, I'm basically like a big bottle of glue. I'm just trying to put people back together every single day, but, once again, it's never the same thing, and it's always really cool. But yeah, I mean, I think that if you find someone that you mesh well with, wherever that might be, I mean, that's your person, because yeah, you have to trust them, especially if you're, whatever level you're competing at, if you're racing, that's 85% mental. Mm-hmm. So it's like if your mindset's not there, yeah, you have no chance of doing what you need to do.
So how did you get into massage?
Ooh. Well, my undergrad is in exercise science, so I did a little personal training, little coaching out of college. Didn't like it. And then while I was racing bikes, I was getting work done, and I was kind of floating around town trying to find people. And I would have people work on me, and they'd be like, well, what do you mean you race bikes? I'm like, I'm a bike racer. And no one understood what I was even, talking about. Now, were there people then that maybe I could have found? I don't know. But for me, the people that I had work on me, no one understood what I was talking about when I was racing bikes, and I'd be like, Tour de France. I mean, that was the only thing that I could throw out there that people actually understood what I was, and then then they're like, do you know Lance? And I'm like, no, I don't.
They said it just like that.
Just like that, but yeah, that for me, it was like, there was a void that I thought would be cool if I could fill that void from an athletic standpoint. It's like, I've been lucky enough to race at a pretty high level, and, that to me is experience, good or bad. Mm-hmm. Some people see it as bad because it's like, I've always said, it's like, you give me a number, I'm going to try to win the race. That was always my mindset. So sometimes people see that as bad because they're like, oh, he was out there trying to win. He doesn't understand what I'm talking about, But mm-hmm. Yes, I do. That has come, when I was younger, yes, that was the only thing that my mind was focused on. But now it's like, I've seen everything under the sun. I'm like, if there's a 90-year-old trying to walk around the block, I'm like, dope, let's go. so it is. It's just through the years, I've just had to familiarize myself with different situations. And, I just think that, we all have different experiences, and having someone on your side that can help you through those situations mentally is drastic, so.
So we've talked about one of your businesses, but you've got another one, and that is Kentuckiana Race Management. And you founded that in 2015. So what made you want to get into race management and race directing and all of that?
Same. It's kind of same. I mean, we really had, we had some local events here. I mean, obviously Ironman was here at the time, so it was like, then if you talked about doing triathlon, people were like, oh, there's no way I could go that far. I'm like, dude, there's a lot more than just Ironman that people didn't realize even existed from a triathlon perspective. So there was one local race that was, starting to build in town, and there were some others that were, there's another company that would have some races at Taylorsville and things like that. That's actually kind of where I got my start, and I'm grateful for them every day because, without them I would have never been able to kind of be introduced to the sport. But I thought there was a little void in the market. Once again, I've been lucky enough to, I was lucky enough to race triathlons all over the world. So it's like, I thought there were world-class venues in town and courses that I could create. So that's what I did. I've always had a crazy, my mind is out there, and I'm always trying to come up with new ideas, and it just doesn't stop. But that was one of the crazy ideas was, let's start this one event, the Derby City Trifecta. That was my first event. And we ended up adding on to where we had a series at one point and all this stuff. And then COVID hit and changed everything.
Right. But it did bring new opportunities, changed the focus a little bit.
Yeah.
Brought back Trifecta in 2021.
Yep.
Didn't have the other two. But then realize that there might be something more and something different, or there is something more and maybe something different, not necessarily leaving triathlon behind, but right now taking a step back from that and going to pursue road racing.
Well, I've always wanted to, anyone that has talked to me since I started the race company, I've always wanted to have a running race. I'm like, that's my comfort zone. It's like, that is, I don't know. I know more runners, even triathletes. I'm like, you can't be a triathlete without being a runner, whether you like it or not. Whether you come from a swimming background and you hate running, well, you still have to run. So everyone's still a runner. But I always wanted to host a running event. I never have, till now.
Yeah. So tell us about this event going to be happening in June of 2022, June 11th.
Well, we got us a 10K happening in Iroquois Park. Since everything's going away from the park, thought it was time to have a little something there. And not only that, I'm no longer doing it solo. Got me a little business partner. So there's that. So yeah, a lot of positive changes. A lot of weird stuff happened in 2020. Yeah, even outside of racing, we redid this. Right. We redid this store, so that's pretty crazy, But from a racing standpoint, I think a lot of people had that. I think a lot of people got lost last year. didn't know what to do. I mean, literally, I was told we can host a race until a week before. That was insane.
You don't have to remind me.
That was absolutely insane. So how do you not get burnt out on a situation like that? I'm like, we had all the stuff. It was go time. And then they said, it's no time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's tricky stuff, But, so, yeah, decided after this year's trifecta that let's put multisport on the back burner for a little bit and see what we can do in the running market. And once again, I mean, it's like I've told you from day one, there's a void. There's plenty of events. I have a different vision. That's terrifying. Yes, I know.
I'm along for the ride for some reason.
But yeah,
No.
I mean, it's like I do. I always have ridiculously goofy ideas, and now I'm just glad that I'm not the only one that has to deal with those goofy ideas.
The one cool thing I think about, even just when you like having your race management company and then moving on or moving towards something new, is what you're bringing with it. You're bringing with you all that experience, and then bringing me in with experience in a different realm. But the heart behind it is you want to be able to bring events that runners are going to want to be a part of. You have the experience of being the participant. You have the experience of being on the other side of the table with the triathlon stuff. Right. So it's now, how do we cultivate an event that people who are going for a PR, who are going to win the race, who are coming for the experience, how do you create something where everyone is excited to be a part of it? And because of that experience, I think this is going to be something that's a lot of fun. There's a ton of potential because of the experience, like you as a race director, me as a race director, is coming into it with, because we're wanting people to have this feeling and this experience.
And not just, that's what I've learned through the years of hosting tries, is that, when I first started it, I'm like, I wanted to have, it's like, this is going to be the fastest course. This is that. I'm like, it took me a while to realize that, yeah, there's a time and a place for that, but most people don't come out for that. Right. They want an experience. And, now it's like, I've come to realize, I'm like, okay, I want something to be just as cool for the winner of the race or whomever's walking and comes in dead last. I'm like, how do we make that the same experience for all parties involved? And I'm super excited for that. I think that part will be, super, super, super cool.
And taking it back to the roots, back to running.
There it is. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I think it'll be and once again, it's like most of the racing has gone away from Iroquois Park. Mm-hmm. There's literally, I don't want to say that because obviously Iroquois Hill Runners have quite a few events there throughout the year. And we will be working with them, to host our event too. But, I mean, the majority of, we hear it all the time. I mean, I've heard this for years, oh man, Papa John's is probably one of my favorite races. Well, that's gone. Right. It's like, I loved the Mini when it went through the park. That was so cool. And hard, because I think most run courses just aren't difficult anymore, and I'm like, it's almost like the challenge is gone. Well, I'm ready to see a challenge, because this course next year is not going to be easy, and I think it's awesome. It's not a PR course. For me, I want it to be, if you're a competitive person, it's like let's get baseline first year, and then let's see if it's a PR course.
Right.
You know, I'm like, let's see if you can better that throughout the years. Because that's, you know, to me, not everything needs to be super easy. You know, we get enough of that in the world right now. You can get, everything's instant gratification right now. Well, I'm like, well, let's work a little bit, you know? So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for a challenging 10K.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And especially that's, obviously, I work with runners all the time, and it's things that you hear often, or we want stuff back in the park, or we want stuff other places, you know.
Right.
And so this is going to provide that opportunity to those people and get people who are in the park all the time, like, oh, well, let me just sign up for this race, who may not go downtown or may not go somewhere else, but this is kind of like their home course. And I
Right.
know it used to be huge when the mini went through Iroquois. We always, with the Iroquois Hill Runners and Swags, we always had like hill workouts
Right.
on Tuesdays. Well, and then once the mini got taken out of the park, people were like, well, I don't need to do that anymore. I don't need to do that hill work because there are no hills, you
Right.
know? And so bringing this back or bringing something to the park is going to create that challenge and just offer something new to
Right.
them. And it's not that we're trying to take away from, we're trying to add to it, right? We want there to be a larger racing scene within Louisville and
sure.
be different types. We don't want to just be the standard, the same thing. We want
Right.
to bring something different and new to then make
Right.
the racing scene in Louisville.
Right, because there's already a
bigger.
lot of, I mean, luckily for Louisville, there's really good, solid running scene.
Right.
For the size of the town, solid running scene. You know, there's a lot of good races throughout the year. But what we noticed is most are spring and fall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like a lot of the summer stuff are the smaller events, and I'm like, let's have a big event in the summer. Why not? You know, so yeah, we'll see how it goes.
It's going to be fun.
Should be a good time.
Yes. So that's kind of just finishing it up for us and getting to know you, what you do, the different businesses, and that's just a small piece because he's got a lot of crazy stuff that goes on, not just up there, but everywhere. He's always doing something. But this is when that happens, we get the end result of that. We get Summerfest. We get a renovated store. We get these things because someone's thinking about it. Someone has to envision it and then set the wheels in motion. And so it's really cool. And I'm excited to get to be part of the ride and get into a front row seat and getting to be part, you know, and take part in all of those things. So do you have anything else, like a piece of advice to maybe different runners who are maybe starting or people who've been in the game for a long time, or something anything else you'd like to add?
You know, I don't know. I've always said it's like so many people run for different reasons. You know what I'm saying? I mean, some people, I've always said, not only do I love it, but I love to eat. So it's like that lets me continue to eat. But I've always said I think it's really cool how no matter if it's running or cycling or swimming or CrossFit or whatever, I'm like, if you can find a passion for it, I'm like, get after it, you know, because that is I don't care if it's, you know, 30 minutes at the gym on the elliptical twice a week. It's like, if that's your thing, I'm like, just do it. I'm like, I think that's the hardest part. I think a lot of people are scared to find what makes them, you know, a lot of people are scared to get into running. They're like, oh, I could never do that. You know, I see it every single day. It's like, you know, I'll see someone in my office and they're like, oh, yeah, I know to you this is a joke, but I'm just doing 3 miles. I'm like, we've all been there. Mm-hmm. You know, look, I'm coming back. I took 5 months off. I'm like, I'm coming back from an injury. I'm like, I get it. You know, I mean, we've all been there. And it's like, but if you can find what you love and makes you tick in life, I'm like, you're winning. You know, because there's so many people that aren't willing to step outside of that box a little bit to try to find something that, you know, they might be good at, even though, I mean, so many people have it in their head, I've always hated running. I'm like, well, you grew up playing, whatever it was, and running was punishment. Right. So it's like, yeah, it makes sense. That's a mindset. But then, well, I'm actually pretty good at this stuff. I probably should have started years ago. I'm like, what do you do? But yeah, I think that's the hardest part, is just find something that, makes your heart tick a little faster, because that's just a beautiful place to be. I'm like, like I said, I don't know what I would do without my therapy sports, because that is, that's what keeps me sane. No comments there, but that is, I've always said my best ideas are, working out outside. You have no ceiling, so you're literally, your mind is free to roam, and it's like you can be super, super creative, and that is what I think is amazing about the sport.
That's how the track in the South store came to be.
There it is.
It's because we all got tired of working in the store. We went on a walk at the park and came to life. So.
Yep. There we go.
Well, thanks for coming out to finish up this year's Runners of Louisville, rounding us out with December. So we appreciate you wanting to do this with us.
Good time as
always. Wanting or dragging. No, I was kidding. Always fun, that's for sure. So